125,000 miles, and this Toyota is totally living up to its name. It really doesn't need a whole lot, but unfortunately it got struck with an expensive repair. Let's get started. This is a 2005 Toyota Highlander with the V6, a 3.3. You could have gotten a 4-cylinder, which is the one my dad has. He has a 4-cylinder Highlander, which is probably how I would want it because they're easier to work on. We're going to see when we look underneath this thing, they got a lot of stuff jam-packed in there. This one's not in perfect shape. We'll take a look at it, but it's a driver. It runs great. It doesn't have any major issues, but it has a lot of warning lights on. We're going to find out why. Let's go ahead and take a look around this thing. Here's the front of this Highlander. We can see the grille has faded most of the chrome off, and the hood has been repainted, and it also has hail dents on top of it. But it's somebody's daily driver. It's not a museum piece. It's not meant to be perfect. The paint is really good down the side. It has kind of mismatched tires on it. It has some Generals up front. And then in the back we have a Goodyear Assurance, which looks to be brand new. If this is one of the Jeep Commanders or one of the vehicles that has a transfer case that's not happy with mismatched size tires, you really could be in trouble. But I get it, I understand. With a car like this, you don't want to dump a bunch of money into it sometimes. You just want to keep it rolling. And if you find a really good deal on a certain brand of tire, you just go for it, because the goal is to keep it rolling, not to get it ready for Concours d'Elegance. You can see that one of the bolts is broke off in the license plate, and it's just kind of hanging there. I'll leave that for the customer to take care of. But otherwise, the back end is in pretty good shape. And down that side, equally, it's nice. It just has issues on the hood and maybe a few hail dents or something, but nothing serious. Let's go ahead and look under the hood. Here's our 3.3 V6. We can see the timing belt was done not too long ago. The miles look kind of strange, 4585. I doubt it was 4,000 miles. It was probably more like 45 or 140. I'm not sure exactly. These are good engines. They don't give a lot of trouble. They just keep going like a tank. One thing we did notice is the radiator cap is bad. I'll go ahead and take it off. And you can see, look at that. It's not even holding pressure anymore. That's why all this pink antifreeze stain is here. And it's also why it lost a little coolant. The overflow bottle is low, almost empty. It does have enough in there to keep it cool. There's nothing major going on there. Otherwise, in pretty good shape. Let's go ahead and take a look at the interior and see what Mrs. Wizard finds in there.
Okay, ladies and gents, here we go. 125,447 miles. Wizard had me turn it on just to give you a teaser on all those lights that are on. Maintenance required, VSC, and check engine. Of course, the seatbelt light is flashing because I'm not wearing my seatbelt. I'm not going anywhere. Let's turn it off. So, gauge cluster looks good. As we move up, we do have a bit of sticky up there, which I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe something obviously was there. Hopefully not their cell phone they glued there to keep track of, you know, their Instagram feed. I don't know. But otherwise, it's not cracked up here. Probably some Goo Gone could get rid of all that sticky stuff up there. Everything's looking good. No cracks. Got a set of blue dice dangling there. Simple HVAC controls. And they have upgraded the stereo to a nice Kenwood system. So move down. Added a nice USB as well, charger in there. Got a nice quarter in one of our hidey holes. Our second hidey hole has a bolt in there. And our third hidey hole, which all of them are working, a lot of old papers. So nothing too exciting, but they have nice functional hidey holes to keep everything looking good. Otherwise, the seat's looking pretty good. Got a little bit of a stain on that cloth seat, but that happens over time. And our door card has that light gray and a darker plastic gray, but floor mats are in really good shape. Maybe a few marks, because again, that's where your feet are, and you know they get dirty over time. As we move to our back seat, it is in really good shape. I don't see any major marks, see a few maybe little spots on them, maybe some spots where kids obviously were sitting, but again, no rips, no tears, it's in really good condition. Floor mats back there, looks like maybe some little kiddo spilled a soda on there, but thank goodness it's on the floor mat and not on the floor itself. Headliner's in really good shape, no sags, no tears, nothing like that. Let's check out, can we see our ceiling? Hello ceiling to the shop, it's looking good up there. So that's quite functional. So here we are. We're back at the steering wheel, and very simple controls around it. Toyota of this era did not put anything on the steering wheel itself. It's all in these areas in the around package of our steering wheel. At least we can still reach each of them. So enough of this interior talk. Why don't the Wizard and I trade places, and he can plug this in, and let's see what all those lights are meaning.
One of the complaints the customer had was their air conditioner was having issues where it would just randomly go to full hot or full cold with no input from the customer. It would just do that on its own. And it's a very common issue on these Highlanders is actually this temperature control dial. This was floppy loose. It was so loose it actually broke the ribbon cable that connected to the potentiometer in the back, which is a common thing. I soldered it back together and it is working flawlessly now. That was one of the things we brought to the customer. There's several that he kind of declined to do, but it was so easy. I'm just going to include it in the price of what we found wrong with the VSC light and the check engine light. And you see that and you think, oh my goodness, must be ABS sensors or something's bad wrong, and the actual issue has nothing to do with anything with the ABS at all, or the traction control VSC system. What we found is very expensive, and whenever I see these codes I'm about to show you, my heart sinks, because I know it's going to be very, very expensive. And nobody ever likes to spend this kind of money on something that's just related to this. Let's take a look. Both banks, Bank 1 and Bank 2, the catalytic converters have failed. It is saying in many ways more than just one way, they're bad. So there's several other things we found on here that the customer declined. They thought they could probably do it themselves. But the catalytic converters are definitely one that they were not able to do themselves. It's very difficult, very time consuming. We checked with other data PIDs and confirmed it is bad catalytic converters. Let me show you one of the ones on the front part of the engine. We can see it down below. It's a little cylinder shaped thing and it's permanently attached or welded to the exhaust manifold. You can't really replace one. You replace the entire unit, and that's why they're kind of expensive. But this one's not too hard to get to. A couple hours you can have this out and back in, maybe even a little less. But that's not what brings so much time and labor to this job. Let's go ahead and get this car in the air. So there you can see the actual catalytic converter, which is also welded to the exhaust manifold, which is way back there. You can see the actual manifold bolted to the head. And even if you get it loose, there's nowhere you can go with it. You have to remove a lot of this stuff out of the way, the exhaust. And also this little guy here has to come out so you can drop it down and out of here. So it is quite extensive to get this one out. And you can see all these bolts are very, very rusty. Look at that. Those bolts are going to break. I already know that. But that's some of the issue why it's so expensive on this car. And also we'll talk about in a little bit the actual cost of the converters themselves. Before we do that, let's start at our normal spot and do a quick inspection on this. We will find that it's not leaking anything because it's a Toyota. Let's take a look. Here's our core support cross member here where the radiator sits above. It's all nice and dry. Here's our transmission pan, oil pan, nothing leaking. Kind of like a transfer case style area that sends power to the back. Everything is dry there. So you can see that the brakes in front are about 20-30% remaining. We did let the customer know about the brakes on this, and they said that they would take care of that themselves. And that's understandable. If you can fix it yourself, you can save yourself a lot of money. No problem there. Our CV boots are not cracked. They're dry. The strut is not leaking. Sway bar link is good. Nothing loose. Same situation on the brakes here. The strut is dry. Sway bar link is good. The CV boots are not cracked and leaking, and nothing is loose there. Here's our drive shaft with a center support bearing. There's actually two of them, one here and one here. Everything seems to be good there, although we're seeing, like I said, lots of rust. Here's the rear portion of the drive shaft. Nothing is loose there. Everything's nice and tight. Again, there's the rust I've been talking about. There. Luckily, the fuel tank is plastic, so it's not going to leak or anything. That's just a protective shield is all that is. Here's our rear differential. No leaks. Our CV boots are also no leaks. The strut is dry. Sway bar link is good. The brakes are about 30 to 40% in the back, and like I mentioned, the customer will be taking care of that themselves. CV boots are good. Strut is dry. Sway bar link is good. Nothing loose. Well, let's go ahead and get this thing back on the ground. So all in all, there's nothing majorly wrong with this Highlander. They are legendary. They're very, very good quality. All the small issues we talked about, the customer's going to take care of themselves. I was able to fix the air conditioning issue, and I'm just going to throw that in with the catalytic converter and not charge them any extra. It's not going to be too big of a deal. On the catalytic converter, it's just like I said, it's just a couple hours, maybe a little less to do the front one, but 4 to do the back one. That's around 6 hours. It says 5 hours, but severe duty or severe service is 6 hours. And I'm quoting the severe service because of all the rusted bolts we saw. That's going to add a full hour drilling out bolts and taking care of rusted studs and things. So even though it takes longer, he's going to be getting new studs, new bolts, everything will be brand new. That in itself is very expensive. And then you add the cost of the catalytic converters. $600 for just one. There are 2 of them. This one's the front one, and as you can see, it doesn't even come with the heat shields. You have to take your old ones off, and they just bolt right on. It's not a big deal, really. $600 for one little catalytic converter because it's all part of the manifold. Now the question is, why can't you just get this part and have a guy weld it in? Because this part's probably at least $100 or $200, and by the time you pay an exhaust shop to do all this cutting and flanges and angles, look at this, guys. Look at that weird angle. That's very strange. Then you add the time for the muffler shop to do that, and you're pretty much at this price. So it really doesn't save anything to do that. So $600 for this one, $600 for the other one, which is in a box over there. It's $1,200. They do have a cheaper option for around $400. But as you saw in one of the recent videos we just did, I really don't want to buy the rock bottom cheap one because I know from experience with catalytic converters, if you buy the cheapest one you can buy, the customer will be back within 90 days with their check engine light back on again. So we don't want that. I'm sure the customer doesn't want to pay all this money for the check engine light just to come on again. So we're going to do it right. And these things aren't cheap. So all the hours, all the parts, over $2,000 to make a check engine light go away just for an emissions problem. There's nothing actually wrong with the engine. It runs perfect. But it's an emissions thing. That's all it is. It's not cleaning the exhaust good enough. That's the only problem. Luckily, their air conditioner's working, their cruise is still working, but some of the newer Toyotas, some of the newer models of cars out there, we all know, some of us have experienced this before. Something as simple as one of these converters going bad the computer will shut off your AC or shut off your cruise control, and you don't have an option. You have to get it fixed. It can be also just an O2 sensor go bad, which is not going to be $2,000. It still could turn off your AC or your cruise control. It's kind of the way they force you to get it repaired, and it's not fun. But it is what it is. So looks like he's rolling 6s in there, which is pretty good. We're going to get these catalytic converters installed and get that light to go off for him, and he'll be happy. Everything will be taken care of. And the other items he'll be taking care of himself, so that's fine by me. And then they'll have many more happy miles on this Toyota Highlander. My dad's in his retirement years, and he purposely took my advice and bought a red one of these, kind of maroonish red color, because he knew I don't want to be dealing with broken cars at this stage in life. I just need to be able to go to church, doctor's appointments, different things like that. I don't have time for the troubles. And because he bought a Toyota, I don't get to see my dad anymore. No, I get to see him occasionally, but other than a timing belt service that we did not too long ago, it just doesn't break. And that's what he bought it for. So if you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this Toyota or that Ferrari or the Audi or the Bentley or anything in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's bus videos and tons of other videos coming for you guys. Thanks for watching.